are in Crystal Cave in Kutztown, Pennsylvania.
Now we're just a few miles outside of the college if you want to take a look at it on the map. But you know, as we explore different things, caves are kind of becoming our thing.
A little bit, yes. If you look, you could see the Ray Cavern. We'll put it up there.
Right up there. And as you look behind us here, what an amazing view. We are actually doing the opening to this video from the very furthest point that you could be in the cave. And I have to tell you, this place is just incredible.
Imagine it's 1871. Two farmers came to this area looking for limestone, and they blasted in this area finding this cave. Here we go down the cave called Crystal Cave, and I'm going to put a jacket on because it is 54 degrees down there year round.
As you first enter the building at the beginning of the cave, they bring you into this auditorium. There's a great big screen, there's a bunch of chairs, and they show you a video that's about 13 minutes long. Now, we're not going to show you any of that video today because you have to come here to see that video.
The first thing you see when you come into the cave is this structure, and it is called the upside down ice cream cone. I could totally see that. Now, this is a stalagmite. If you look up above, it is the stalactite. And these are formed by the water dripping from above down onto this and making it grow. It takes 300 to 500 years to get about an inch. 300 to 500 years. So as our tour guide explained, if you were here when you were a little kid and you come back 50 years later, it's not going to look much different.
Imagine being a farmer, going out one day, looking for limestone so you could make better fertilizers and stuff. Now this is in the 1800s. They blast this hole, and what you're about to see is what they found on that fateful day.
Let's talk today about the Pennsylvania potholes. If you've ever been to Pennsylvania, the potholes are pretty rough. And in this cave, it's proof of the Pennsylvania potholes. See right there? Okay, kidding aside, they look at this as evidence of this cave being filled with water, and it created a whirlpool effect, which created these great big craters, and this on the ceiling of the cave. Look at how shiny this calcite is. Now, as we walk over here, you can see that the calcite on this side is no longer shiny. This is dull, and you can see here how it's broken off. Here's where the teacher kicks in, and I have to go through the rules. There is no eating, drinking, smoking, chewing gum in the caves. What happened early on when the first people came through the cave, they believed touching these walls would bring them luck as they went through the cave. Well, it actually messed up or destroyed this area. They also took chunks off for souvenirs. Today, if you want a souvenir, go into the souvenir shop and you can get your souvenir.
We are now in what they call the storage room. Kind of a funny story of how that started. The original farmers that blew that hole in the front of the cave way up there, well, they came to this room and it was kind of opened up and they said, wow, what a great place to store our crops. Well, turns out that was not such a good idea because it's very humid in here. So a lot of moisture, which makes a lot of moldy crops. But they kind of left some evidence behind of what happened. And I'm going to show you that evidence right now. If we go way up here, we can see that there's a carrot up there. We got some green beans up at the top. And if we come over to this side of the cave, this is pretty darn cool. They call this the bacon because it looks like a piece of bacon on the top. Now I do want to point out here, and Patti, if you can get a really tight shot there, I want to point out there's green mold there. Now that mold actually comes from visitors' clothing where there's spores of mold on the clothing. And it kind of gets into the air and then grabs into places. Now, there is one more really cool thing that I have to show you from this room. And it's just You know, nature is a pretty incredible thing. And right now, I'm going to show you what they call the American or the bald eagle right here. You can see his head right there in the green, and then the wing and the wing. And that is a natural formation that looks just like the American eagle.
Totally unexpected. We're in what is called the Crystal Ballroom. And that is because in 1874, Mr. Kohler bought the cave. Remember those two farmers? So Mr. Kohler took the historic inn, and that's where he'd have guests stay. This was called the Crystal Ballroom because he actually used it for parties. He had people down here dancing, food and drinks. He even had a band that played here. Can you imagine down here in this cave?
Now, Patti told you about the balls and the dancing and things, and I'm standing on what they used as the stage. Actually, the stage is where the Rolling Stones actually got their name because of the stones back here rolling down onto the stage. Okay, just kidding. But I want to tell you a little story about the origin, and I'm serious about this one, of Bridezilla. Because Bridezilla wanted a grand piano at her wedding. So what did she do? She paid some local farmhands, get this, 25 cents each, or 25 cents an hour, or something like that, to carry a grand piano up that huge hill that we walked up to get here and down into this room so she could have a grand piano at her wedding 150 some odd feet below the surface of the earth. What I have here in the middle of this, what they call the Crystal Ballroom, is something called altar rock. And for those of you who have not been paying attention, it's a stalagmite because it's growing from the ground. But guess what? It's dead. I want to point out one thing. First of all, you can see all the gray, or maybe you can see all the gray and dullness of it. That's because people have been touching this thing for years and it's getting that grungy look. But there's another secret, and that is that this was actually moved here for Bridezilla because she wanted something in the middle next to her piano. And this is actually cemented on the bottom at this spot right here. And it was moved from somewhere in the back of the cave here so Bridezilla could have her altar rock.
This little red light, that means that it's low. Now for those of you who live in an RV, maybe you need some of these red lights on some of those cabinets. But this is where you want to make sure you duck when you walk by.
About amazing things to consider. This great big rock that is over top of us, they call it a drop rock. And that's because it was the ceiling of this whole cave a long, long time ago. Through the magic of editing, I am now on the other side of drop rock. So we saw the front side, what it looked like where it fell. This is what the back side looked like. And there are some amazing things here. As we look up across the top of this cave, you can actually see the line where this rock sheared off. Now, I'm going to show you some things that nature is just kind of amazing in the way that it makes formations. What I'm showing you right now is the largest stalactite in this entire cave. It's about 6 feet long. It weighs, we estimate, somewhere around 500-600 pounds, and it looks just like an ear of corn that I'm gonna have later for dinner. Now there's also one other piece in here that I really want to show you, well, two pieces, as I come down. And Patti, if you could just turn the camera around, look at that right there. That is from Star Wars. It is the Imperial whatever. It looks like a great big spaceship. And then as we move right over here, look at that. We have our light shining on it. That is the outline of Jack Frost. You can see his nose, his eyes, his big cheeks, and that great big smile.
As we move through the cave, it's awesome that we have a great tour guide because there are things that she has pointed out that we never would have noticed. Look up here at this rock. So from down below, you could see this outline of our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln. Look at that. Certainly not something I ever would have noticed on my own. When the farmers came into this room and they noticed the sparkly things in this rock, they thought they were diamonds. So they took a piece of it to somebody who told them what they were, and they were nothing more than common table salt. And as we know, table salt will dissolve in water. The reason you can still see these crystals here is because above is like an umbrella that protects them from the water that is dripping. When you come, you have to come and really look closely at this area. Coming through the cave is definitely a workout. It is 211 stairs. Now, the end of the cave has 80 stairs, and you don't have to go up those. As you can see, this is not wheelchair or stroller friendly.
As we explore Crystal Cave in Kutztown, Pennsylvania, I have to just talk for a second about this is part of our journey, going out and finding really cool things to do and to see and to discover. And that is really made possible by our sponsor, RV Life Trip Wizard. That's how we found this cave. That's how we got the directions to get to this cave. That's how we knew it was RV safe, and you can even park your RV in the parking lot here as you come on this tour. It's just an incredible place, and we always want to remind you, it's not just about the destination, it's about the journey. What were you doing 500,000 years ago? Kind of rhetorical question, but what I'm going to show you right now started forming over 500,000 years ago. And if you could do me a favor and put that green light on the column to mark it out for me, great. That right there is what we call a column. Now, a column is a stalactite from the top and a stalagmite from the bottom, actually growing together through the years. Now remember, about 500 years per inch or so. Oh my goodness. So, if you're ever asked the question, what were you doing 500,000 years ago? You were starting a column.
These are called fried eggs or oysters on a half shell. These are stalagmites that were actually cut down, and this is what happens to them over time as they wear. Now, I am touching them. I was given permission to touch these, and this is something that when you come to the cave, you can actually touch. They're nice and smooth, and I believe this is calcite, correct? Look at this structure right here. And then look up at what is the highest point in this cave. And what they discovered was this structure actually fell. During that same earthquake that we talked about earlier, the structure fell, and they know that if you took the structure, it would get back up there. Now, something else cool that they do while you're here is what they call lights out. Let's see what that looks like when they turn all the lights in the cave out. Wow, it was really dark. I don't know that I want to be in here for very long with the lights out.
I am standing below what they call the lion's tail. Now, the lion's tail is a formation that is so rare, there's only one other of these known in the entire world, and that's in New Mexico at Carlsbad Caverns. But if you take a look at this, it is actually a stalactite holding on, and then it's got some crystal formations coming out around it. Now, you know, when I look up at it, it kind of looks like mistletoe to me, so I think somebody should be coming and giving me a kiss. And thank goodness Bridezilla didn't see this, because she would have snapped it off and moved it over to the Crystal Ballroom.
I'd like to welcome you to Crystal Cave Zoo. And it's really cool when you come in here to think about what the rocks look like, just like when you look at the clouds. Now, if you look up, you can see a zebra, you can see the seal, the three-hump camel, And then there's a three-legged turtle, as well as that turtle that we think is chasing an alligator, which doesn't really happen. Now this is probably the coolest thing. Two lions that look like something out of Lion King. Let's talk for a minute though about bats. This is for my mom because she's really worried about the bats. Fact is, Crystal Cave did have bats, and some 10 years ago there was a disease called white nose something or other that wiped out the whole species. This was an invasive species. It came from somewhere else and wiped out the species of monkeys. They believe there are still monkeys out in the barn or the historic inn area, but none back in the cave.
Now I'm just gonna jump in here real quick because Patti was talking about monkeys. We're really kind of talking about bats. I have found the secret passageway. Yes, it is called the Devil's Den. And you can just see that little red light. I know that we can't get it on film the way we want to, but that little red light leads to another room back there, and there's actually a 35-foot drop. Who would have thought that something like this is in Kutztown, Pennsylvania?
It's really an amazing place to come. Just so many cool things. Now, I was here probably 20 years ago with kids, but seeing it now, it just, wow. It really was wow. You have to come.
You know, some of the formations, the fallen rock, the zoo, that lion's head, you know, this is just something that, while we tried to give you the best pictures we could, it's one of those things I think that you have to see with your own eyes to really feel the gravity of it.
Right. And I'm going to tell you, make sure you wear a jacket. It is 54 degrees, and what a big difference as we walk outside to 85 degrees. And you don't have to worry about wearing a hat because there are no bats in the cave.
No bats. There used to be, but they're not here anymore. From Kutztown, Pennsylvania, I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patti Hunt, saying have a great rest of today.
And an even better day tomorrow.